Elisa Lam died in 2013. Her body was discovered in a water tank at the infamous Cecil Hotel. But the questions we need to ask are, what happened to Elisa and how she ended up in that water tank? Elisa was a beautiful, thoughtful girl who went to the University of British Columbia. She had an interest in fashion and a talent for writing, which was suppressed by the demons of bipolar disorder and other mental issues. Those issues made people jump to conclusions about her disappearance and her tragic death. Amateur and professional investigators alike have spent more than 9 years trying to solve the mystery of Elisa Lam's disappearance, her weird behavior, and the circumstances surrounding her death. Not a single clue was found that could give the serenity and closure that not only Elisa's family deserve, but also the investigators that have been working nonstop on this case. Elisa's case is now like a challenge for those who are willing to take their skills to another level and try to uncrack this confusing mystery. Elisa Lam was born on April 30th, 1991 in British Columbia. Her parents, David and Yina Lam, were 2 immigrants from Hong Kong. Elisa started her first blog, called Etherfields, in 2010. She used this blog for several years to share her love and interest for fashion by posting magazine articles and anything that is fashion-related. But there was a dark side to her blog, as she also posted and shared with her readers about her struggles with mental illness. While writing, Elisa always feared that her consistent posting might show how she frequently dropped classes and barely went to college. Regardless, the stories she shared and blogs she wrote showed what a bright and intelligent girl Elisa was. Her final blog on Etherfields, Elisa announced she would continue sharing her thoughts and social media presence on Tumblr. She created a page called Nouvelle Nouveau, which means news new. On that page, Elisa shared numerous images and writings, some of her own and some of other authors. But just like on her blog, there were posts that reflected darkness and personal sadness. Those dark blogs, articles, and images she often posted were all explained later, as it was revealed that Elisa did in fact suffer from bipolar disorder and depression. But her family kept that secret for months after her disappearance and death. Elisa took many medications to help her with her mental illness, and up until her trip to Los Angeles in 2013 that ended her life, she showed no breakdown or danger to either herself or to others. On December 21, 2021, Elisa shared her desire to travel to the West Coast and visit a school in Santa Clara for a potential transfer. A week later, Elisa posted on Tumblr that she lost her cell phone. On January 5, 2013, Elisa mentioned planning for her trip to the West Coast and suggested meeting up with people from the internet. On the 7th of January, Elisa booked her flight and writes on Tumblr, "The rest is to be written," which sounds a bit eerie, knowing what happens later. On the 9th of January, Elisa shared on Tumblr that she created a new Facebook account for the 5th time due to paranoia. She posts a blurb, but before the blurb she wrote, "This is the very start of my depression, and today I am feeling very low." Fast forward to January 18th, Elisa arrived in Vancouver. 4 days later, she supposedly traveled to San Diego. On January 24th, Elisa posted on Tumblr that her trip was full of activities she would normally do back at home. But she later wrote, "Every now and then I do something entirely impulsive and reckless." A few days later, she posts on Tumblr that she's out with friends and that she lost her phone. Again. The next day, Elisa arrives in LA and checks into the Cecil Hotel. Elisa's roommates complain of her odd behavior. She then moved to a private room on the 5th floor so she won't disturb anyone. On January 31st, the last day of her planned visit in LA, Elisa was last seen by a couple of hotel workers and in a local bookstore by a clerk who mentioned that Elisa was in fact by herself, and that she was very lively and friendly. Elisa was supposed to check out of the Cecil Hotel that same day and travel to Santa Cruz for her last stop on her trip. She called her parents almost every night despite losing her phone multiple times during that trip. So her parents were waiting for a phone call from Elisa that day. But after hearing nothing from their daughter, Mr. and Mrs. Lam flew to LA to file a missing persons report. After weeks of searching for any clue of where Elisa might be, not only inside the Cecil Hotel, but they also searched the surrounding areas. On the 14th of February, LAPD released the most shocking evidence in this case. It was an elevator surveillance footage from February 1st of Elisa walking inside the elevator and pressing a series of buttons and continue to act in an absolutely weird and bizarre way. The clip was eerie, but it gave the investigators a glimpse into Elisa's final hours. The missing persons search came to an end on the 19th of February, when a worker from the Cecil Hotel responded to guest complaint about a horrible smelling water and low water pressure. The employee went up to the rooftop to check the water tank. He looked into the tank and discovered Elisa's naked dead body. The police were called and the missing persons case turned to a murder case. But a couple of days later, on the 21st of February, the police ruled her death as accidental due to the consequence of drowning, with the finding of bipolar disorder as well as other conditions contributed in the cause of death. Many people questioned the police's investigation and in fact did not agree with it. Therefore, many theories started to pop up and videos of people explaining what they think happened to Elisa Lam. The Cecil Hotel was built in 1924 in Los Angeles. This hotel hides a violent and bloody history. The hotel was nicknamed the Hotel Death. At least 16 deaths have occurred in the Cecil Hotel since it opened. The hotel became home to Richard Ramirez, a notorious serial killer who walked around in the lobby with clothes soaked with his 14 victims' blood. And another serial killer stayed at the Cecil Hotel named Jack Unterweger. 6 suicides occurred at the Cecil Hotel in the 1930s alone. Some ingested poison, some died of self-inflicted gunshot, one slit his throat, and many jumped from the hotel's windows. One story in particular, a woman jumped from a window and landed on a passerby, killing them both. Another woman gave birth inside the hotel and threw the baby from the window, but she was deemed not guilty by reason of insanity. Another well-known cold case called the murder of Pigeon Goldie. Goldie was a long-term resident at the Cecil Hotel. She was found in her room, murdered, beaten, raped, stabbed, and choked to death. The area surrounding the Cecil Hotel became known as Skid Row. This area was filled with homelessness, drugs, prostitution, violence, and murder. In attempts to escape its horrible reputation and dark history, the hotel was rebranded as the Stay on Main. Since the main and key point of Elisa's investigation was the elevator footage, which was extracted from a camera that was in the corner of the elevator, let's watch the full video. But viewers' discretion is advised. If you have a weak stomach, skip this video, as it can be unsettling for some people. It appears to be that Elisa was being followed by someone. She looks scared, like she's trying to hide from someone or something. Also, Elisa seemed to be having an argument and yelling at someone, or maybe she was having a breakdown and was talking and arguing with herself. Her toxicology report said that she only took one of her prescribed medications on the day she died and had zero alcohol or any other recreational drug. But she might have suffered an episode of mania, which is caused by bipolar disorder. An episode of mania can include hallucinations, delusions, and paranoia. Also, other symptoms including psychomotor agitation, which involves repetitive unintentional movements and behaviors like taking off clothes repeatedly and pacing, which Elisa showed in the elevator footage. Many weird positions, pressing random buttons and undistinguished hand gestures. All of these factors make the video hard to explain. But some people say the video is missing 1 minute-long clip, but you can't really tell because of its low quality. Some even say that the footage have been tampered with. They say that Elisa's mouth was pixelated intentionally. Other conspiracy theories say that Elisa was possessed, or was playing a game called the elevator game, attempting to cross to the spiritual realm. But the most reasonable explanation is that during her stay in LA, Elisa was followed by someone and was chased in the hallways of the Cecil Hotel and was killed and placed in the water tank. This theory was backed up by many of Elisa's posts on Tumblr. Here are some of them. One post she wrote, "I'm going out tonight. I really hope no creeper comes near me. Seriously though, those Italian and Mexican guts go after you strong." Another post said, "I really need to be removed from society before my big mouth gets me in trouble and I get beaten up." She also posted, "My mouth is my downfall and it will get me in trouble." Another one said, "I already do so many stupid things. I have troubles knowing where the boundaries are, and it seems I always make the biggest mistake at the worst possible moments and get caught and face consequences for getting caught. The one time I wasn't thinking and did something stupid to cut corners." It is possible that Elisa got into an argument with the wrong person, in the wrong place at the wrong time. The problem is that theory might explain the first part of the footage, but the second part doesn't make sense and can't be explained because of her strange behavior. Another problem with that theory is that her body had zero bruises or any sign that Elisa was harmed by anyone. There's also something else worth mentioning. The only way to access the roof is by a door that has an alarm attached to it. So if it was opened, an alarm would go off and the hotel staff would know that the door had been opened. Or you can access the roof from the fire escapes. Now, there are a lot of videos show that it's not easy to climb a ladder while you're 14 stories high. So it's almost impossible for someone to climb a ladder while carrying a dead body. So murder was ruled out. Also, all of her belongings were accounted for except her lost phone, which ruled out robbery. Not a single clue or evidence can confirm any of these theories. But the conclusion the police came up with, which was that Elisa's death was an accident, didn't make any sense. How did Elisa accidentally go to the rooftop, climb a giant water tank, lift a very heavy lid, take her clothes off and jump into the water? At the end, the most logical explanation is that Elisa was suffering an episode of mania. She showed most of the symptoms a person having an episode of mania would show. So the police's report of an accidental death made sense after all. Whether Elisa's death was caused by an episode of mania or not, people need to start taking mental health and mental illnesses more seriously and accept the fact that it can lead to death if not treated properly.